What's up, Vinyl community? My name is Cliff Amal. New to the VC. Watch a lot of videos. Never made one before. First YouTube video ever. But what I'm going to do here, I just want to introduce myself. I'm going to show 10 records that I really dig. Nothing crazy, nothing too rare. Just stuff that I really like. Give you an idea of like what most of the stuff I'm going to show on the channel is, what most of the stuff that I'm into is. I'll start off, this isn't one of the 10, but I'm going to start off just showing you who's playing in the background. It's Purification, heavy doom metal band from Seattle, Washington. Really good stuff, but check them out if you haven't before. You'll be happy you did. First off, start off with my rock stuff. It's a couple rock records that I really like. Give you an idea of what kind of rock stuff I really dig. But the first thing I'm going to show is this here. This is Bad Reputation by Thin Lizzy. Classic album. Great stuff. Awesome songs on here. Soldier of Fortune's a killer song. Bad Reputation's killer. Killer Without a Cause is, that's an excellent song. Just really good stuff on this Thin Lizzy album. Really did a good job on this one. It's a great record. Classic right there. Next up is a little more obscure. I like the 70s rock, like heavy 70s rock stuff, and that's this band Bang, their album Mother, or their album Bow to the King. It's the same album. One side's called Mother, one side's Bow to the King. Both sides really solid, heavy 70s rock stuff. I'm a real sucker for that stuff. Really good 70s rock. I'm on it. Anything that reminds me, speaking of good 70s rock, anything that reminds me of these guys, Black Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. This is one of my top albums of all time. I love this band. I don't think they've done anything wrong. This is my favorite. I can't say they're best. I think they're all their best. So this album is really good though. Love this album. I'm not going to talk too much about it because everybody should know Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath at this point. Great stuff. Alright, so we're going to move into a little more heavier metal. This band's not super heavy, but they're really solid, good, kind of doomy, traditional heavy metal, pagan altar, mystical and magical. This is the repress that they did last year or the year before. I don't remember, one of those. Last year or the year before. Came out on really cool, like purplish, maroon vinyl. I think they called it Blood. But this was a cool band. It was a father and son duo. The father just passed away a few years ago. But this was a father and son duo, and I think they were part of the new wave of British heavy metal, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're in Canada now. But really solid, doomy, new wave of British heavy metal stuff. Really good. Reminds me a lot of Black Sabbath. Not totally, but a lot like Black Sabbath. Next is this guy here. Classic band right here. And really I think that a lot of people don't dig their more like this type of epic heavy metal, Viking metal stuff. I think a lot of people like their more black metal stuff better, but I love this album. And I like a lot of their black metal stuff better, but you can't say this is a bad album. Great album. Really heavy. There's some heaviness to it, but it's really epic, like super epic Viking black metal stuff. A lot of traditional heavy metal mixed in here. Bathory is killer band. Norland 1 and 2, it's a double LP, so I guess I snuck 2 in there. Double LP, but it's a great album. Good for playing video games. Next, another classic. Judas Priest. Big bulk of my you know, a big chunk of my metal collection is collecting full sets of things like Judas Priest, or trying to get full sets of Black Sabbath. There's a couple in there that I haven't got, but that's because they're too expensive for me right now. I'm not gonna pay $100 for a headless cross or something. But Judas Priest, killer, classic, traditional heavy metal, one of the originators, and you really can't go wrong with Rob Halford's vocals. He's the best metal vocalist, I think, ever. Really great metal vocalist. What can I say? Awesome. Another classic, Bolt Thrower. A little heavier, you know. There's some heavy stuff. Bolt Thrower, great. I think they're one of the godfathers of crust punk, in my opinion, just because so many crust punk bands kind of copied their early stuff. And Bolt Thrower is one of my favorite death metal bands. They're so heavy and harsh, and really anything they put out was good. They have not a bad album in their entire discography. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to some of the stuff that I'm probably going to be showing the most of. My hardcore punk collection, as you can see, all my 7 inches, they're all hardcore punk stuff. This whole section here is hardcore punk, and it's my favorite stuff. It's stuff I grew up on. Went to a lot of hardcore punk shows when I was a kid. A lot of hardcore punk shows. A couple metal shows, but I really did dive into the punk scene when I was younger. But first one I'm going to show, this is a classic, His Hero's Gone. And I want to show a His Hero's Gone album because I feel like my whole time that I was in the punk scene, there it was in the early 2000s, and a lot of the stuff that these guys splintered off to later on is still some of my favorite stuff. There's not a bad album that a member of this band, His Hero's Gone, hasn't put out that's great. But this album is amazing. Really harsh, heavy, hardcore punk. Put out in the late 90s, and it's a really, really good classic album. If you've never heard this before, you should check it out if you like heavier stuff, because you'll probably dig it. Really good songwriting, good musicianship, talented bunch of guys right there. Next up, I'm going to do another one that's from the early 2000s. No, this one's from the early 2000s. That one's from the 90s. But early 2000s, Annihilation Time. Man, this band just rocks. Rocking solos, and really fast. They're like borderline just fast rock and roll. They're rock and roll, punk, hardcore, all mixed into one. Perfect combination of all of them. This is a band I never got to see when I was into the hardcore punk scene, but I would have loved to see these guys when I was in my 20s and moshing my head off. But great band, Annihilation Time. If you don't know them and you like rock and roll or punk, they're cream of the crop right there. And last, there's a big chunk of my, not a big chunk, but I'm not as into it as some people, but the Japanese hardcore and foreign hardcore stuff, this is one of my favorites. Japanese hardcore from the late 90s, I think, if I remember correctly. But this album is just solid, killer album. Not easy to come by, but if you could find this in any form, I would say pick it up. It's a great album. Maybe a little expensive for some people. It comes on nice, like dark blood red vinyl clear. This one does at least. But good stuff. But that's about it for now. I'm gonna leave you guys with that. Give me a like if you like the video. I try to support guys on here, and just hit me up if you like it. And thanks Thanks for your time.